the first wave of NFL free agency has finally died down, and we got a good look at what teams wanted to attack and which big holes they wanted to fill. Pause. But anyways, I got another mock draft now that that's over with, because now a lot of teams have made moves. We've seen what they wanted to address in free agency, which holes they still left open to address in the draft. But welcome to the Pylon Cam. Excuse me, I'm a little bit sick. Welcome to the Pylon Cam. My name is Mike. But I got a mock draft, and we're going to do trades with this one because I haven't done a lot with trades. I don't really like doing trades in mock drafts because I think they're a little bit silly, just being with how hectic the draft can get. But with this one, I wanted to have some fun. So there will be trades in this one. I've already done the trades. I'm not going to talk about trade compensation because that could be literally anything. I mean, teams will give what they want for what they want. Doesn't matter if we think it's right, wrong, balanced, unbalanced. It is what it is. I mean, look at Bill O'Brien's trade masterpieces in the past. But anyways, so with pick 1, the Panthers have, I think this is my first mock draft with the Panthers at pick 1. And this was a popular trade between the Bears and the Panthers before it happened. And it did happen. And I think that, I know that I've been mocking CJ Stroud here since the beginning of this. He's already highlighted. There you go. Yeah, I'm going to go with CJ Stroud. He is my QB1 in the draft. I don't know what is happening. There we go. He's my QB1 in the draft. I think we don't have to talk too much about the prospect. Like, at this point, if you're watching a mock draft video, you know, you've heard the whole spiel about pretty much all these prospects. With Stroud, I think he's, and you shouldn't be drafting a quarterback because of this, but I do think that he is the safest quarterback in the class. He has the prototypical size. I think what really has, if you watched my first mock draft from this season, I was not in on Stroud at all. I thought he was going to be, I don't know what the word is, but I thought he was going to be very system dependent on where he goes. And you can say that for every quarterback, but I thought with him, like, he kind of falls into, I guess, like the Jimmy G camp is what I thought. But after watching him play Georgia, I think I really, truthfully, honest to God, do not see the gap, this monster gap that everybody's talking about between Bryce Young and CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud had way more help than Bryce Young. Don't get me wrong, but I don't see this chasm of a talent gap between the two that everybody kind of is making it out to be. But with pick 2, we're going to go with Bryce Young. I think the Texans just take your quarterback, and I think Bryce Young, I think he'll be okay. If I was a GM, though, like, I don't think I would draft him, and that could be, people can call me an idiot for that, but that's fine. I think that, I mean, for me personally, I'm very picky with the quarterbacks I've wanted to draft in the past. If I had to draft one this year, it would be Stroud. If I couldn't get Stroud, I'd probably just wait till next year and just move up for one. I mean, you see trades all the time with, like, Trey Lance. They gave up 3 first-round picks to get Trey Lance. I mean, you could do it. It's just, it is what it is. And then at pick 3, I had the Titans trade with Arizona to leapfrog the Colts. And I did this because, one, you could be potentially taking the Colts franchise quarterback and keeping them in the dumps for a little bit longer. 2, I think that the Titans are in this weird spot where they're going to be rebuilding, and I think a lot of their key pieces are going to be moving. I was just reading today that they do not plan, or they are entertaining the idea of trading Jeffrey Simmons. So I think the Titans are getting ready to strip it down and start from scratch. And so I had them trade up to take Anthony Richardson, because you have one more year of Ryan Tannehill where he's going to sit behind and watch and observe and learn the new offense. You go ahead and get one of the most freakishly athletic quarterbacks in the draft, in draft history. And I think if you give him to Mike Vrabel, who I think is one of the best coaches in the NFL, I think he'll be in good hands. Excuse me. And I think that Anthony Richardson is definitely who the Colts are looking to get, and I think that the Colts would be actually looking to potentially trade up with Arizona at pick 3, as silly as that sounds, just to ensure that no one can come up and do what the Titans are doing in this mock draft and take them away from them. And then at pick 4, I have the Colts, and they're taking Will Levis. I will say, I wanted to do the Titans trading up because I've seen a lot of the Raiders trading up and the same teams trading up, which is very possible, but I also think we're ruling out the possibility for another team trading up. And you also have to take this into account. You could trade back with the Raiders, sure, but at that point, you're probably missing out on Will Anderson and Jalen Carter. And at that point, it's a free-for-all. So if I'm the Cardinals, the farther I trade back, we literally need everything. I'm going to trade as far back as I can because, not as far back, within reason, obviously, but like, I'm going to trade as far back within reason to get the most picks I could get to rebuild this roster because it's in complete disarray. But I will say, if I did, for the Raiders fans out there, if I did have the Raiders trade up, I would have them trading up for Will Levis because I think Josh McDaniels would want the type of quarterback who is familiar with the pro-style offense, knows what he's doing within a system. I don't think and I think this is the same reason why the Patriots are not going to, also if you didn't know, Lamar Jackson requested a trade on March 2nd. That news broke today, and it is not March 2nd. But I think that they're not in on Lamar Jackson because I think that Bill Belichick wants a quarterback who's going to stay within the system and stay within structure. And when you have a quarterback like Anthony Richardson, like Lamar Jackson, like all these mobile quarterbacks who are, I don't want to say run-first quarterbacks, but who like to improvise, I guess, out-of-bounds improvise, you kind of lose structure of the offense and what you're trying to do. And I don't think that Josh McDaniels or Bill Belichick want that. So I think that, side note, if the Raiders were to trade up, they would be trading up for Will Levis. That's just my opinion. It's just my thought process. If it doesn't make sense, let me know in the comments. Seattle at pick 5. I'm going with Jalen Carter here. Yes, there are the character things, but I think they're starting to get blown out of proportion, and this happens literally every year. They're getting blown out of proportion, and Will Anderson, don't get me wrong, is still a very good pick, but I think that with how much depth at the edge position Seattle has with Boye Mafe and all the other guys you got there, you have a lot of draft capital invested in it. You might want to just address the interior, and if you want to go edge later, you have pick 20. So like, take the best player in the draft in Jalen Carter. I think that the character thing, yeah, it's a red flag, but I think it's very much so blown out of proportion at this point because it's not like he was. I hate saying this because it sounds like I'm trying to belittle it, and I'm not. It was a tragedy what happened, but it's not like Henry Ruggs. Like, it's not like he was the one doing it, or it's not like the other dude on the Raiders, who I always forget his name, was filming a video with guns or whatever. Just stupid. Like, a kid is gonna be stupid, but like, every report is he's a good locker room kid. He's a good teammate. Blah 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 blah. I think that some teams have written him off their board and some teams have not. With a pick 6, you don't gotta overthink this. Is Will Anderson. I think the Lions have really done a good job addressing their deficiencies at corner, and I think that you pair Will Anderson up with Aiden Hutchinson, and you don't gotta think about it too much. Raiders at pick 7. Usually I go tackle here, but I think, well, I really wanted to trade this, like, Raiders fans, correct me if I'm wrong, but I really wanted to trade this spot back. Like, I wanted to trade back from here, but I couldn't find someone where it made sense to do so. So I didn't end up doing it. I thought about trading back with, like, the Packers, but I didn't think there was anybody, like, I just didn't think there was anybody that would trade up to pick 7 because all the quarterbacks are off the board unless they really want Gonzalez, Tyree Wilson, or Witherspoon. Those are like the only ones I could see moving up for. But I went with Christian Gonzalez. I think that the Raiders are definitely all in this year. I don't think they're looking for like too far into the future. I think they want to win now with Josh Jacobs on the franchise tag and Devontae Adams still in town, and I think getting a defense to support Jimmy Garoppolo, something they never did with Derek Carr, is a step in the right direction. I think that starts with the lockdown corner. I could have went edge here too if I really wanted to, but I thought Gonzalez was the best pick if we were not going to address the O-line. And I really do think that the defense needs to be addressed because I don't think the Raiders have made too big of a splash in free agency. I could be wrong, but to my knowledge, I don't think they made any big moves for any big-time players. Falcons at pick 8. I think you guys get Lamar Jackson when this is all said and done, but I tweeted it out today. I think that the Lamar Jackson trade happens after the draft. I don't think it's going to happen before the draft because any team that is going to trade for Lamar Jackson knows that they're going to be a better team, and they know that they're going to be picking later in the draft. In theory, they could fold, but in theory, they're going to be picking later in the draft. So I think they want to use their early, like if they're the Falcons, you want to use pick 8 and then trade 2024-2025 firsts for Lamar Jackson after the draft, because you still have till the end of, I think till basically the start of training camp to do so. I don't know when the deadline is for that, but I don't even know if there is a deadline, to be honest. So I went with Tyree Wilson. The Falcons, and I was talking to someone about this today. The Falcons roster really, truly is not bad. It's not as bad as everybody thinks, and everybody forgets they were one game away from winning the division last year. The division was garbage, but I think I think that there is. I'm trying to figure out how to put this. I think the Panthers win this division, by the way. I'm so over and tired of the Derek Carr. Oh, Derek Carr's to the Saints. No, they're going to win the division. Derek Carr's going to be the savior of the Saints. Derek Carr this, Derek Carr that. Derek Carr had a down year with Josh Jacobs at being the best running back in football and Devontae Adams at his disposal. And I understand maybe you don't win as many games, but how do you have a worse year passing? That doesn't even make sense. This is the same thing that we were fed last year with Baker Mayfield to the Carolina Panthers. And I was one of the only people to say, this is just stupid. Baker Mayfield's not going to carry anybody anywhere. I don't think the same thing's going to happen with Derek Carr and the Saints. Because there's also a scenario where Michael Thomas gets hurt immediately, Alvin Kamara goes to jail, and your offense that you're trotting out there is Derek Carr, Jamal Williams, and Chris Olave. Versus the Panthers, who are the most complete team in the division. And I would argue the Falcons have a more complete roster. They're just missing a quarterback. So, I really think that if the Falcons could just nail this draft, do this draft right, and get Lamar Jackson, even without Lamar Jackson, I think they have a closer record to the Saints than the Saints to the Panthers. That's how I feel about it. Anyway, rant over. I'm sorry. Back to the mock draft. Pick 9 is the Chicago Bears. I keep seeing people mock Jalen Carter here. There is no chance Jalen Carter falls here. That is everybody's on this sipping the Kool-Aid on the Bears of they traded back and they got a haul for it. Now they're going to magically get Jalen Carter. Imagine if they got Jalen Carter. It's not going to happen. Unless they trade back up for Jalen Carter, it's not going to happen. Which honestly wouldn't be a bad move since they got DJ Moore. They got all that they wanted. Spend something to move up maybe with the Seattle at 5. I don't know. But because they didn't, I like Skoronski here. I think Peter Skoronski is the best pick for the Bears. If I wasn't going to take Skoronski, I thought about Broderick Jones. If you've watched these videos, you know he's my tackle 1. But I think Skoronski provides an ability to win the division now and provides versatility on the line. If someone goes down, if Tevin Jenkins goes down, Skoronski's plug and play. I think he provides depth at other positions along with being a starter at maybe right tackle if that's where you're going to start him. Because I think the Bears need a right tackle. Whoever they draft, Paris Johnson Jr., Broderick Jones, Peter Skoronski, they're starting at right tackle. So I like Skoronski for that reason. But I think it's pretty safe to say one of the tackles will be a Chicago Bear by the end of night 1 of the draft. That's how I feel about that. Eagles at pick 10. This might be a little high for him, but I'm going with Brian Branch. I think the Eagles' safety room is very thin as it is. They did just sign Terrell Edmonds from the Steelers, but he's on a 1 year if I'm not mistaken. Pretty sure he's on a 1 year. Brian Branch, you're drafting him to be the guy, maybe not year 1, but in year 2, he's going to be your, oh God, I'm so sick. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. I'm actually not that sick anymore, but I was sick. I just got this stupid cough. Anyway, Cardinals back on the clock at pick 11. If you forgot, they traded back with the Titans. And it works out wonderfully because it's a team that needs everything, and you're arguably getting the best corner in the class in Devin Witherspoon. I think this is a great trade, a great outcome for the Cardinals. I think there's a 100% chance they trade back. I think Will Anderson, Jalen Carter, fantastic players, immediate impact players, but you need to build that roster top to bottom. So go ahead, trade back as far as you can within reason. I want to make that clear again, within reason, and get a player who's going to make your roster better. I think there's a 100% chance that this pick is traded before draft night or on draft night. Pick 12 is the Texans, and with this pick, I see receiver here a lot. I don't think it's going to happen. I think because they have so many picks in the first 2 rounds, and they have, I think D'Amico Ryans really just wants to build the trenches. He talks about it over and over and over again. I don't hate going tackle here. But I think with Miles Murphy on the board here at pick 12, it's fallen far enough. I still think he's a top 10 talent. You could put him in on the interior of the line and on the outside. I think he provides fantastic flexibility for that defense. Fantastic. Pick 13 is the Jets, and I'm going with boring old Paris Johnson. I don't care. It's the right pick. I would go, like I said, Broderick Jones is my tackle one, but I think Broderick Jones versus Paris Johnson for the Jets. The Jets need to protect Aaron Rodgers now, and I think there's a better chance that Paris Johnson does that now than Broderick Jones will. Although, this was the same argument I made last year for Ikem Ekwonu versus Evan Neal. I said Ikem Ekwonu is a higher reward player, and I don't think the risk is as big as everybody thinks. I thought Ikem Ekwonu was the best player in that draft. I was wrong. Sauce Gardner, but he's a close second. I'm not close second. I think he is the second best player in that draft. Just because of how valuable tackles are. I think this year he's gonna have a monster year. But he actually played better than Evan Neal in year one, and he was viewed as the risk player, whereas Evan Neal was the safe player. And then pick 14, I had the Giants trade with the New England Patriots. The Giants have added a ton of receivers this first wave of free agency. I don't think they're going to stop there. I think that if they want the bona fide one to pair up with Darren Waller, I think you have to draft Jackson Smith-Njigba. Him running a 4.4, in between a 4.48 and a 4.45, I think he's fast enough, dude. I really don't. I don't understand the. I think Jackson Smith-Njigba is being nitpicked because he was unquestionably the wide receiver one, and there needed to be a narrative to generate hype around other players. I swear to God, I think that's what it is. He's above and beyond the best wide receiver in this class, and it is not even close. The whole spiel of, oh, he's slot only, I don't buy it. I know he barely played outside of college. That's going to change in the NFL, and I think he's going to do very well at it. If you watch how he releases off the line, if you watch everything about him, route running, etc., he is the best in the class and everything. If there is a receiver worth trading up for, it's Jackson Smith-Njigba. And why I had the Giants trade up with the Patriots specifically is because I think that if they don't, that is the pick for the Packers at 15. Even though the Packers do not draft wide receivers in the first round, I think that they have like a little fetish for Jordan Love, so they're gonna get him a receiver round one. But also, all of me can't get on board with that because they just will not do it. So I'm going to go with Lucas Van Ness here for the Packers at pick 16. I think your edge room is anemic. You need to get help on that line. And I think at 6'7", 270, you pair him with Rashawn Gary, you got a really good D-line. And you're going to need a good D-line to keep up with the Lions' offensive line and Justin Fields. I think that the Vikings are phasing out. I think you guys are still in limbo. Also, by the way, I think you have all the leverage in the Rodgers dilemma. People keep saying the Jets have leverage. What's the worst that happens with the Packers? Oh, man, dude. We got to play another season with our Hall of Fame quarterback. Shucks. You're just going to pick up the option on Jordan Love. That is worst case scenario. Do you know what worst case scenario is for the Jets? Zach Wilson is back under center in 2023. That is worse. The Jets won't let that happen. Because if that happens, Robert Saleh's fired and Joe Douglas is fired. They're not going to let that happen. So, anybody who tells you the Jets have more leverage in that trade, ludicrous. Even with the Lamar deal, it doesn't make sense. Excuse me. Pick 16, Washington Commanders. I still think the Commanders desperately need a corner, especially in the NFC East, who's getting loaded with receivers. I think pound for pound, the NFC East it might be one of the, I don't want to say the best division, but it is a top division when it comes to receiver talent. A.J. Brown, CeeDee Lamb, Devontae Smith, Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, who I love. Then Darren Waller. But you know what I mean. So I think you definitely need a corner. So I'm going with Joey Porter Jr., arguably the best corner in the class. To me, it's still Christian Gonzalez. I think he just has a ball hawking ability along with elite lockdown coverage, which is very rare. And I think Joey Porter Jr. is just a very complete man corner who could do everything. And then this pick, I want to point this out specifically for the Steelers. This pick specifically is kind of a prediction pick, because I would never do this. I don't think I would ever do this, but I'm going with Darnell Wright. There is a ton of connection between the Steelers and Darnell Wright, and I think if Joey Porter Jr. is off the board, they're 100% going to take Darnell Wright here. I don't want to say 100% because they might go with Deontay Banks, who I think is a better pick in my opinion. But the Steelers have a way of doing things their way, and I think that Darnell Wright here is what they want to do. And I want to point that out because it's not something I would do. It's just something I could see happening. Lions back at the board, back on the clock at pick 18. And I thought about this pick a lot, but because they managed to get Will Anderson, and I think they did, correct me if I'm wrong, Detroit, but I think you guys signed a D lineman. If I'm wrong, I know you guys signed a few corners, a few very good corners, and you have a bunch of picks later on. For me, this really came down to why not make our strength stronger? We're going to be able to run the hell out of the ball with also fantastic signing by David Montgomery, by the way. That is one of my favorite signings of free agency because we saw what David Montgomery could do behind the Bears' offensive line. You put him behind the Lions' offensive line with DeAndre Swift, who's inevitably going to get hurt. So for fantasy, keep an eye on David Montgomery. But you have the field stretcher in Jameson Williams, and you have Amon-Ra St. Brown at the slot. I really like the idea of getting Quentin Johnson here and just making, where would you rank the Lions wide receiver core? If it was Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, who's going to take a step. He was one of my favorite receivers last year. I know he's going to be good. And then you have Quentin Johnson, who, if at worst case scenario, he's Chase Claypool. That's a pretty good receiving room. Now, Chase Claypool is nothing to, I mean, he's all right. But, if Quentin Johnson is better than that, then that is a very good receiving room with that run game and that offensive line. The Lions might have, they had a top offense last year. I would keep an eye on the Lions. And then at pick 19, I actually had the Chiefs trade with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because Orlando Brown Jr. left in free agency and Broderick Jones is still on the board. I think getting a very high upside tackle at pick 19 is already a steal. To replace Orlando Brown that you don't have to pay for 5 years, fantastic move. I think this is a great move by the Chiefs, and I think it's a great move by the Buccaneers because you need everything. You're in full rebuild. So anything you could get and trading all the way back to 31, you're going to get a lot of picks. So I think this is a really good pick. And the Chiefs aren't afraid to move around the board. We've seen that year after year. So, yeah. But at pick, I'm trying to remember where I'm at. At pick 20, the Seahawks. The Seahawks always draft a first-round offensive lineman, and I'm going with Osiris Torrance. I think this is a fantastic pick for the Seahawks. We don't got to talk too much about it. Best guard in the class, position of need. Fantastic pick. With Kellen Moore in town, and I bet this is my first mock draft, and now everybody's doing it, and I still think it's the right pick. At pick 21, we're going with Bijan Robinson, and this has nothing to do with the Austin Eckler trade request. He's already better than Austin Eckler. 2, I can't stand Austin Eckler. I think he's great. Don't get me wrong, but him talking about, I'm going to give you 20 touchdowns this season. No, you're not. You're not going to get 100 1-yard screen passes like you do in LA if you go somewhere else. Bijan is better. Kellen Moore is used to a 2-back offense that we saw how successful it was with Zeke and Pollard before Zeke's wheels fell off. I think Bijan adds another layer to this offense, takes pressure off of Justin Fields. Oh my gosh. Justin Herbert. And I think this is a good pick. There's receivers later in the class you could get. If you want to go that route. I still think you need a tackle, though, but anyway. Pick 22 is the Ravens, who I think they pick here, and I think that they have to go the route of their drafting as if Lamar is the quarterback, and I think they have to also go the route they're drafting as if they have no quarterback, if that makes sense. So what I'm basically saying is they got to go best player available, but also keep positional need in a thing. And having Nelson Aguilar as your wide receiver 1 just cannot happen. So I'm going to go with Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers is a receiver that's really grown on me. For me, his stock really improved when I saw that he put on 13 pounds of muscle. Dude is in incredible shape. And he really is a good a good route runner. I don't think he's an exclusively slot player. I think he has the ability to play on the outside, which is why I would take him this high. I think that I saw a clip of him getting locked up by Sauce Gardner, but Sauce Gardner's doing that to every professional athlete in the NFL, so it's not something I want to slam him for, but I think where he'll struggle is against physical D-backs that could get their hands on him. That's where I think he'll struggle. Other than that, routes, everything else, fantastic. Minnesota at pick 23. With this pick, I think that I still am in the mindset of you have to go best defensive player available. And they really need help in the secondary more than anything. I think that you need... I mean, yeah, you could go D-line, but, I think Deonte Banks is just a better prospect than Brazee and Kancey. I really do. I think Kancey getting comparisons to Aaron Donald is a little crazy. I understand the size thing and everything about it, but, Deonte Banks is a very good player. I think he's going to translate very well to the NFL. Jaguars at pick 24. I wanted to go edge here. I thought about Anton Harrison, but I think at pick 24, Nolan Smith has fallen way too far. I still think he's a top 10 talent as well. Fantastic locker room guy. Can do everything. And we saw how successful he was with Trayvon Walker at Georgia. So I think Nolan Smith to the Jaguars makes a ton of sense because he's coming from Georgia where he's a rotational player and is deployed in certain packages like how all Georgia defensive linemen are. But he's going to be behind Josh Allen and Trayvon Walker, so he's going to continue to play in that same role. And if they decide to move off of Josh Allen later on, or it's just a fantastic depth piece, I think Nolan Smith is going to absolutely shine at Jacksonville. I think he might have a better rookie year than Trayvon Walker did at Jacksonville if he goes here at 24. And the Pats back on the clock at pick 25. And truthfully, I think the Pats stay put. Well, I think they might trade, but I think they're going to draft a corner in round 1. A corner or a tackle. I don't think they're going to go wide receiver. But for this pick, because of what's on the board, I think you have to take Jordan Addison. Get Mac Jones help. I think this whole deal right here, this is insane that they have quarterback listed as a position of need after Mac Jones just went to the Pro Bowl and then was given Matt Patricia and Joe Judge, who, by the way, have never been offensive coordinators in their lives, to coach him. I mean, that was just insane. It was insane. Mac Jones taking a step back, that's not on him. That's not on him. Give him Bill O'Brien. He's going to be much better. Get him a weapon in Jordan Addison. I think this is a great pick for the Patriots if they decide to do it. Cowboys at pick 26. I'm going with Kalijah Kancey. Historically, the Dallas Cowboys have liked smaller D linemen, smaller athletic D linemen who could stop the run, and Kancey is that. I think Kancey is a better run defender than Brazee, which is kind of why I went Kancey over Brazee, because I think Kancey does low-key have the higher upside over Brazee, but either or. I don't like the idea of going Jahmyr Gibbs here. I think there's so many running backs you could just get one later. I would rather go receiver or D-line or edge if you have to take anything. Yeah, definitely. And then at pick 27, Bills, I'm going with Steve Avila. Correct me if I'm wrong, but is it a Villa or a Villa? I know it doesn't have the double L, so I'm going to go with the Villa. I think this is a first-round player. Whoever gets him in the second round is getting a steal. He's arguably the best guard in the class. For me, it's still Osiris Torrance, but he's arguably the best guard in the class. Position of need. I think that, and I think Broshmo tweeted it today, and I responded, and I was like, Steve Avila to the Bills in round 1 makes a ton of sense. Because it does. You're not going to get Torrance unless you trade up. Bijan's 100% going to be gone. You could take a corner here, but I think Emmanuel Forbes here is a fine pick. You could take Cam Smith. But I think that if you need someone to impact your team instantly, it's Steve Avila over those two. And I think that if you watch his tape, if you watch what he did at the Senior Bowl, it's a no-brainer. And then here, at pick 28, I'm going with Brazee. I think the fall has gone too far. That's the thing with this draft compared to last year. It's very fluid in that there's a lot of moving parts. A lot of people have different opinions on things, so I think draft night is going to be I don't think anybody's going to know what's going to happen. But Brazil at pick 28, I think you're going to get DJ Reader some help, BJ Hill some help. And I think Brazil could be a plug-and-play player. And I don't really care, but I don't think he's an injury-prone player. He dealt with a lot of off-the-field stuff. Sister died, mental health, the whole nine. But when he's healthy, the production is there. So, like, I'm not going to slam him for that. And then pick 29 is the Saints. This was a really tough pick for me because the Saints, I thought about, you might even want to trade back into the second and just get more picks. But when I was thinking about it, I was like, I really don't like doing this because I think history is a good indicator of this. I don't really like the whole first-round tight end thing, to be honest. I think Kyle Pitts is a tight end I would draft in the first round, 100%. I don't fault the Falcons taking that for. I really don't. Are we both wrong, as in myself and the Falcons? Maybe, but I would have done it. They did it, whatever. And I think that with Derek Carr, having someone like Darren Waller in the fold is going to make him a lot more comfortable in the offense. And I know they extended Juwan Johnson, but he is what he is. And I think that Kincaid or Mayer is much better players. And I was really torn here because I was like, do we go with Kincaid? I mean, realistically, I think these four, as in 1, 2, 3, 4, could be first-round players. Darnell Washington was everybody's tight end too until Dalton Kincaid randomly broke out. So for me, I just went with my highest graded tight end, and that's Michael Mayer. I think he's just the most complete tight end. Kincaid's a better catcher, whatever. Excuse me, but I mean, pick your poison, I guess. And then the Eagles at pick 30, I really wanted to go with B.J. Ojulari here. I think B.J. Ojulari is probably one of them. I think he's the most underrated player in the whole draft, to be honest. But I wanted to get a new name in here, and I'm going to butcher it. But I wanted to get Adetomiwa Adebawore. I think that he absolutely murdered the combine. His stock went nuts after that. He's got great size. I think he's 6'2", 260, 280 maybe. A huge human being. And I think that here with like the tricky thing with the Eagles is like, so you went Brian Branch. You have your nickel corner, your safety, blah, blah, blah. Now it's like, I don't think you need a center because you drafted a center in the second round last year. Do you go with like Josh Downs to be your slot receiver? But I don't think Josh Downs even is a slot receiver. Do you take depth for James Bradbury and Darius Slay and Emmanuel Forbes or Cam Smith? Do you get tackle depth? Like, there's a lot of things that you could do here that I just was like, I don't know. I think edge is the move. I think they're the best players on the board. You could take Mozzie Smith. You could even take Kincaid if you want to, but like, maybe that's the pick. But I'm gonna go with Adetomiwa because I think he's actually gonna go in the first round. I think someone's gonna bite on him. And then Bucks at pick 31. I really liked this pick when I made it, because I was thinking about this, and then what's his name? Daniel Jeremiah tweeted or put it in his mock draft. I really think that someone is going to take a shot at Hendon Hooker in the first round, because if he didn't tear his ACL, he was going in the first round. Fact. So, like, why are you going to wait? Why are you going to ignore the fifth-year option and not take him here at pick 31 in the first round because he's not going to play right away? You just drafted or signed Baker Mayfield, who's going to play. Let Hendon Hooker sit behind him and start your rebuild. I think this is a really good pick. I think this is something I could definitely see the Bucks doing, or someone like this, like maybe the Saints. I think someone will take a shot on Hendon Hooker in the first round. I don't think it'll be the Vikings. I really don't. I think if the Vikings go quarterback, they're going to trade up to get one. And I really do think that the first 4 picks will be quarterbacks. I truly, truly, truly believe that. It's just the league. It's just the way the league is nowadays. But anyway, guys, that's gonna do it for this video. That's gonna do it for this mock draft. Let me know your thoughts, comments, and opinions in the comment section, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.